Hey guys, this is Professor X, and this is the beginning of, well, actually, this is just a rough draft video, but I just took the Network Plus test today, and I want to share with you guys what was actually on the test. And without giving away specific questions, because that'd be a violation of terms and policies, I just want to let you know what types of questions I remember being on the test. Um, so the first thing is now not all the questions are actually graded. Some of them are test questions. They do them as part of just feeling them out to see if they should add them for credit and other tests. But there were more than five, less than 10 practical based questions. And those are the first questions you go through, right? Like, so if you don't know already, that what you want to do is just flag those, save them for last because they require a lot of brain power, and you just want to blow through those multiple choice questions. On my test, I had about 80 questions, give or take. I believe you might get somewhere in the range between 70 and 90, just total questions. And so, my strategy is always like knock out the questions you know for sure. As you're going through the questions you know for sure, that refreshes your memory. And let me rewind. This is probably how I should start the video. They give you like a little whiteboard, little like plastic piece of paper that you can write with an erasable marker. The first thing I wrote down once I was allowed to was my subnetting cheat sheet. So I basically went from /24 to /32, how many bits that is, and then what is that? It's like your subnet mask, like basically say 255, 254, 252, 240, like all these, right? Um, and that helped a lot when I got to subnetting questions. Now, subnetting questions, how many of them were? I had about three. I can remember off the top of my head. They aren't strictly subnetting questions like you get when you're practicing. It isn't like what is the subnet for this? What is the host? They're all problem troubleshooting based questions. So they're like, here are like two IP addresses. They're having trouble connecting. What's the issue? So for one of them, it was definitely and I guarantee, because I heard this before, you'll get one question, at least on the test, where the answer is that the default gateway is outside of the same, it has to be in the same subnet, right? So if your device is in a different subnet than your default gateway, it will not connect. So you're going to get a question like that, almost guaranteed, like very high probability. The other questions were one, the I had to calculate the IPs were actually correct. And I believe the correct answer was that there was an issue with the DNS. So you had to be able to calculate the IPs and actually know that there was nothing wrong. And I remember there being a third one off the top of my head, can't remember what it was, but the same thing. It was kind of like a scenario-based question, like, hey, what's wrong with this? Why isn't this working? Uh, I know for some of these, I definitely need to know that it was a private IP address range. Um, so going to the test, I had my subnetting down. That's one of like the main areas I felt very confident in. So that really helped me out. Um, there was a bunch of network security problems, just like you'll basically, hey, they're experiencing a problem. Like what type of attack are they experiencing, or is this an attack? What might this be? I found this questions pretty easy, but just know there's a bunch of those. No port number questions. There wasn't one question. Do I memorize the shit out of that? There was not a single port number question. I memorized the shit out of all the standards, like all the cables, all the 802.11 Wi-Fi standards. There wasn't a single question on any of those things. Um, I think you should still memorize them because I'll tell you what, when I was going through the questions, it gave me depth to the questions. I'm like, yo, oh, um, I was thinking to the question, but I actually looked what the question was asking, and I was able to answer a question that they weren't answering, but it gave me context. So I felt like it gave me confidence, and it just in a real life context, if I were to go to an interview or something like that, I was very well prepared. So I'm glad I memorized all this stuff. I think it will come in handy in the future. And I'm guessing if I take one of the future tests like Pen Tester Plus, or even like if I decide to go retroactively and get a A plus certification, which I don't have yet. I have Security Plus, and then I got Network Plus. I'm doing everything in the reverse order. Um, but uh, yeah, man. You know, no port number questions. None just rote memorization questions. Anything that was required you to know it was in the context of a scenario. So it really required you to think. And I think this is one of the benefits of the CompTIA test. One of the benefits is there are very few direct questions. A lot of them are they're almost testing your ability to take the question to the second or third degree. You know, knowing this causes this. Can you answer what this third result would be? Um, so yeah, let's see. Yeah, there's many. What is the problem questions? Where they give you a scenario, you have to figure out what the problem is. I went over uh something. No OSI questions off the top of my head. Uh, I feel like there might have been some ones that required you to have knowledge of OSI, just know what's going on at the switching level and different levels like that. But there's no straightforward questions. Like I can't tell you how many practice tests were asked where I was asked like, at what level the OSI your model is this at? There's no questions like that on the test. Uh, yeah, let's see. No Ethernet standards. There was one fiber optic question off the top of my head where you need to know the connectors. I don't know if I got that one right, but that LC straight through like ST, SC, and what other option, and it just I didn't know the answer to those. I know what those connectors look like, but that one I guessed, and there's a good chance I get that one wrong. So just be aware. VLAN, virtual local area networks. This was really big on the test. This is probably the single biggest surprise for me. A bunch of the practical based questions were about VLAN. Um, there was like a bunch of questions about VLAN and specifically like tagging, trunking, just I would if I were to take the test again, luckily I don't have to because I passed it. I would have really studied VLAN more in depth because that was the one area that really having a more in-depth knowledge of it probably would help me a lot. There was no IPv6, no IPv6 questions at all for me. So there you go. And I studied the shit out of that too. And just so you know, like, because I looked into doing the CCNA. I know CCNA, there's a lot of questions on IPv6, but on Network Plus, there wasn't any for me, which I was surprised. There was about, I think, three routing protocol questions. The four routing protocols you need to know for CompTIA are RIP, EIGRP, BGP, and OSPF, right? So just like really know those well. Um, I had a pretty firm understanding. I think I got most of those right, but there's at least one of them I felt pretty confused by. Um, because there's a question just I'm thinking off the top of my, I don't even know if it was about writing protocols, but it was about just like if you had to create a connection between a neighboring network and the DHCP was down or the default gateway was down, like I forget what it was, but I remember guessing neighbor adjacency, but once again, I don't know if that's the correct answer. Uh, there was a bunch of questions also that indirectly they weren't asking you DNS, but you had to have a firm understanding of DNS and how it worked in order to answer it, right? So definitely be very knowledgeable about that. Know like all the flags, all the tags for that, like CNAME, A, 4A, MX, and just there was a bunch of problem-based questions, or not PBQs necessarily, but like just a bunch of questions where they're giving a scenario. They're like, hey, like this is the subnet, this is maybe this. Here's some facts about the network. It can't connect. What might be the problem? And the answer was DNS for several of these questions. There was no business questions. There was no like service lease agreements, SLAs, like any of that type of stuff. Nothing on there. However, there was a couple questions about disaster relief. Specifically, there was a question about RPO, a question about MTTR, and MTBF. So, uh, this is what I encountered it. Hopefully, this really helps you narrow down your focus, especially if you're close to the test. I would recommend, honestly, get a good course, go through it from the beginning to end, give yourself a good 60 days if you can. Just study every day. Or maybe take a day or two off during the week, but just consistently study, take notes, write down anything important that you want to remember for later. Because a lot of times it helped me when a lot of stuff I'm like, oh, I should know this. I remember it. And then, 2 or 3 weeks later, I don't remember it actively, but I look through my notes and then it comes to me right away. So that's really useful for last minute studying, last minute cramming. Um, and the course I used, I'll link it down below, but it was a Udemy course. The teacher was Andrew. I forget the name of his company, but it was excellent. I found him to be better than a lot of the leading ones. So I know there's like Professor Messer, Dion Training, uh, like Black Box, all these, and I've tried all those. They're all good. But this one was the best one I used. I'm not sponsored. I'm just letting you know this guy, he speaks in a way that's engaging. He speaks slowly, but not so slowly that it's not interesting. It's just slow enough to understand what he's saying, yet interesting enough not to bore you. And I just thought he was a really great teacher. Out of trying a bunch of these over my computer studies, he was the best. So, anyway, I hope that helps some of you out there, and best of luck to you if you're taking this test.